all things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. That light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Again, this language is very similar to the language we saw in the secret book of John, right? In the secret book of John, Yaltabaoth passes his light or his spirit to these other characters. Well, here, those lights in the world come from Jesus ultimately. Now, this connection between the Genesis creation story is not just me saying so. Like, what's the very first line? Genesis 1:1. Anybody know? In the beginning. The very first line of Genesis is in the beginning. What's the very first line of the Gospel according to John? Right. That's a sign to the reader. If you know Genesis at all, you're like, ding, oh. This is parallel to the book of Genesis. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. All right, now who are they talking about here? No. John, right? John the Baptist comes before Jesus. Was John the light? No, it says here, no. John was not the light. Jesus is the light. John is not the light. This is different from the secret book of John. How? According to the secret book of John, who has a light? Well, yeah, he would. And according to the secret book of John, you all have a light. All of you have a divine light inside of you. The Gospel according to John, however, says that who has a light? Jesus and only Jesus. John does not have a light. Verse 10, he was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood or of the will of the flesh or of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. Now this again is very similar to the secret book of John. Jesus is this light who comes down to the material world to teach us, other beings in the material world. He's revealing a secret message to us. Here, Jesus comes down from up on high to our material world to give us a message that we could not otherwise have gotten. It's not the same message as the gospel, the secret book of John, but it's similar in that Jesus comes down from up on high to this world. According to, well, I'm going to skip that. In the Gospel of Mark, what is the messianic secret?
Jesus doesn't want anyone to know about abilities or anything.
Yeah, he keeps it a secret. He actively tells people, don't tell anybody I'm the Messiah, right? He tells one guy that he can tell, but on what condition?
And he can prove it in his own region.
Yeah, go back home to your own city, but don't tell people here, right? Now, does Jesus keep it a secret in the Gospel of Matthew? No, that messianic secret is not in any Gospel except Mark. In Mark, Jesus actively goes around and says, keep it a secret. By contrast, in the Gospel of John, we get the opposite extreme. What does Jesus do in the Gospel of John? what's fundamental to, according to Ehrman, what's fundamental to the narrative of the Gospel of John? Jesus does 7 of these. No, not disciples.
Signs?
Yes, Jesus does 7 signs. There are no 7 signs in the Gospel of Mark. There are no 7 signs in the Gospel of Matthew. But when we get to John, Jesus does 7 signs. Now look at page 113 in the Ehrman text. There are 7 signs. The first is turning water into wine. The second is healing the Capernaum official's son. Third is healing a paralytic. Then he feeds the 5,000. He walks on water. He heals a man born blind. And he raises Lazarus from the dead. So he does these 7 giant miracles. Also, he himself is raised from the dead at the end. But that's not one of these 7 signs. What's conspicuously absent from this list that we saw in Matthew and Mark? What sort of miracles did Jesus do in the Gospel of Mark?
Casting out demons.
He cast out demons. Does he cast out demons in the Gospel of John? There's no casting out of demons. Demons don't appear in the Gospel of John. Jesus is not doing any casting out of demons. That's a conspicuous absence from this list of 7 signs. Now, unlike in the Gospel of Mark, where there's a messianic secret, here, Jesus does these 7 signs in order to demonstrate to everyone that he is this divine being. Let's look just at the first here, the wedding at Cana. Open up to John chapter 2. Can I have a volunteer who will read, starting at chapter 2, verse 1? Jackie?
Start from the 3rd, right?
Yep. Please read very loudly.
On the 3rd day, there was a wedding in
Cana.
Cana of Galilee.
Yep.
And the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciple had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now,
Okay, pause there. Okay. Where are they at? They're at a wedding. And what happens at the wedding?
There's no more wine.
They run out of booze. And what does Jesus' mother do? She comes to Jesus and she's like, "Hey, Jesus, they're out of wine." As in, like, do something. And what does he say?
What is the concern is
He's like, "Let's stay out of it. This has got nothing to do with us. Mind your own business." And then she completely ignores him. And it's like, okay, do whatever Jesus says. Have you guys ever had your parents completely ignore you like that?
Yeah.
She completely ignores them. She's like, yeah, whatever you say, Jesus. Hey, he'll fix it.